The heavy iron blade of the guillotine glinted coldly under the gray, overcast sky. Princess Mia looked up at the angry crowd, cheering for her imminent demise. She clutched a blood-stained leather diary tightly against her tattered white dress. The executioner pulled the lever without a single shred of mercy. A sudden, blinding flash of golden light consumed Mia's entire world. She woke up gasping for air on a soft, luxurious feather bed. Mia touched her neck immediately and found it completely intact. Her eyes fell upon the nightstand where the ominous blood-stained diary rested. She flipped the pages to find detailed records of her future execution. Realizing time had rewound 8 years, she vowed to change her tragic fate. To avoid the revolution, she knew she could no longer act like a spoiled princess. A gentle knock on the heavy wooden bedroom door interrupted her frantic thoughts. Her loyal maid Anna entered the room carrying a silver tray with breakfast. In the previous timeline, Anna had stayed by Mia's side until the very bitter end. Mia suddenly dashed forward and tightly embraced her startled maid. Anna nearly dropped the tray in utter disbelief at this unprecedented display of affection. Mia pulled back and promised Anna that they would protect each other from now on. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she bowed deeply to her young mistress. Mia knew that securing loyal allies was only the first step to survival. The Empire's finances were currently crumbling toward absolute ruin. She needed to recruit Ludwig Hewitt, the brilliant financial official who could fix the economy. In the past timeline, Ludwig had been ignored by the corrupt nobility and joined the rebellion. Mia ordered an immediate meeting with the low-ranking ministry official. Later that afternoon, Ludwig arrived at the princess's private parlor. He expected nothing more than empty complaints from a spoiled royal child. Mia sat elegantly across from him, hiding her internal panic behind a polite smile. She immediately presented him with a detailed plan to reform the Empire's grain storage. Ludwig scanned the papers, astonished by the profound depth of her political insight. He realized these calculations accurately anticipated a massive agricultural crisis. In reality, Mia was simply copying words directly from her future diary to save her own skin. Ludwig mistakenly believed the young princess was a benevolent sage hiding her true genius. He knelt before her and pledged his absolute loyalty to her administrative cause. Mia celebrated internally, knowing she had successfully secured her most critical ally. Together, they began drafting plans to fix the Empire's broken budget system. Anna kept their cups filled with warm, soothing chamomile tea as they worked late. For the first time, Mia felt like she could actually survive the coming storm. Suddenly, a brand new sentence materialized in the diary right before her eyes. The text warned of a deadly plague destined to devastate the nearby slums next month. If the slums collapsed, the revolution would trigger much earlier than she anticipated. Mia realized she had to build a hospital in the slums immediately before the infection started. However, a mysterious shadow watched her window from the dark courtyard below. Princess Mia peeked through the heavy velvet curtains of her bedchamber into the pitch-black courtyard below. Her eyes scanned the dark bushes, desperately looking for the mysterious shadow that had just been watching her window. A branch snapped loudly outside, causing her to jump back and clutch her pounding chest. Shaking away her terror, she grabbed the blood-stained diary from beneath her pillow and flipped open the worn pages. The stark handwriting on the page detailed a massive plague that would soon decimate the imperial slums. Realizing this plague was the exact catalyst for the revolution that ended her life, she knew she had to intervene immediately. The next morning, Mia summoned her brilliant financial official, Ludwig, to the Grand Solar for an urgent meeting. She slammed her small hands onto the desk and demanded that a fully funded hospital be built in the poorest slums instantly. Ludwig adjusted his glasses, completely stunned by the princess's sudden interest in the impoverished citizens. He assumed her demand was born from profound benevolence, misinterpreting her sheer panic as pure saintly wisdom. Mia secretly sweated as Ludwig began outlining complex financial budgets that she could barely understand. Within days, construction crews arrived at the muddy outskirts of the Empire's poorest district. Massive wooden beams were erected to form the framework of the brand-new quarantine hospital. Mia visited the site under heavy guard, keeping a thick silk handkerchief pressed tightly against her nose. A young, sickly girl in tattered clothes suddenly approached the princess, holding out a small, wilted wildflower. Mia froze, staring at the dirty hand, her germophobic instincts screaming at her to back away immediately. Forcing a shaky smile to maintain her public image, Mia gently accepted the flower and patted the girl's tangled hair. The surrounding crowd erupted into whispers, completely awed by what they perceived as unparalleled imperial grace. Just as the diary predicted, a contagious fever broke out across the slums only a week later. Because the hospital was already functional, patients were isolated quickly, preventing a citywide catastrophe. Ludwig brought the official report to Mia, declaring that the death toll was practically zero thanks to her foresight. Mia smirked behind her teacup, thrilled that she had successfully altered history and saved her own neck. However, Ludwig noted that they urgently needed more talented physicians to maintain the facility. Mia recalled another entry from her future diary regarding a brilliant young scholar hidden in the lower districts. She personally set out to recruit this genius before any of her future political rivals could find him. She found the young scholar, an impoverished boy named Tiona, reading a heavy medical tome under a dim street lamp. Tiona looked up in absolute disbelief as the crown princess dropped a heavy bag of gold coins at his feet. Mia offered him a full imperial scholarship, ensuring his loyalty to her for the rest of his days. Tears filled Tiona's eyes as he bowed so low his forehead practically touched the damp ground. Despite these successes, Mia's diary suddenly manifested new pages, warning her of growing political enemies within the capital. The text revealed a conspiracy by corrupted nobles who viewed her rising popularity as a direct threat. To temporarily escape this dangerous political hornet's nest, Mia decided she needed to leave the country entirely. The perfect opportunity existed at St. Noel Academy, an elite neutral school for high-ranking royalty across the world. She immediately requested her official enrollment documents and ordered her staff to pack her finest travel trunks. Her faithful handmaid, Anna, folded silk dresses into the trunks with a look of quiet concern for her mistress. Mia assured Anna that this move would ensure their ultimate survival against the dark forces plotting in the shadows. On the morning of her departure, a massive horse-drawn carriage pulled up to the palace gates to collect the princess. Mia stepped into the carriage, leaving behind her crumbling empire to forge a completely new future at the academy. As the wheels began to turn, she clutched the diary tightly to her chest, praying she was ready for the trials ahead. But just as the gates faded into the distance, a dark crimson stain rapidly bled through the diary's leather cover, revealing a chilling message about her upcoming arrival. The carriage wheels jolted violently as Princess Mia stared at the crimson stain creeping across her diary's leather cover. New words began to ink themselves onto the parchment, spelling out a horrifying welcome at her destination. The ominous warning detailed her public humiliation and subsequent social execution at the upcoming Academy Gala. Slamming the book shut, Mia resolved that she would not allow history to repeat itself under any circumstance. The majestic white towers of St. Noel Academy soon materialized against the backdrop of a brilliant blue sky. As the carriage door opened, Mia stepped out onto the cobblestone path, her heart hammering against her ribs. Standing among the welcoming committee was Prince Sion, the very man who had coldly orchestrated her past arrest. Beside him stood Tiona, the commoner saint whose revolutionary ideals had ultimately led Mia to the scaffold. The phantom weight of the guillotine's blade seemed to press heavily against the back of her neck. Forcing a flawless, polite smile onto her face, Mia advanced toward her historical enemies with careful deliberation. Instead of showing her usual haughtiness, Mia offered Tiona a gentle, respectful bow that stunned the gathering crowd. Whispers immediately rippled through the assembled nobles, who had expected the infamous spoiled princess to throw a tantrum. Prince Sion narrowed his eyes, wondering what kind of political scheme the Tearmoon princess was plotting now. Seeking an escape from the suffocating tension, Mia quickly excused herself and hurried toward the quiet training grounds. The sharp rhythmic clanging of wooden practice swords echoed through the crisp air from a nearby arena. There she observed Prince Abel, a secondary prince from a small kingdom, practicing his thrusts with relentless intensity. In her past life, Abel had been an unremarkable figure who perished early during the global revolutionary wars. Mia realized that aligning with an overlooked prince could provide her with a safe haven far away from imperial politics. Stepping forward with practiced grace, she loudly applauded his technique, breaking his intense concentration. Prince Abel lowered his wooden blade, his face flushing crimson at the sudden attention from the high imperial princess. She offered him words of high praise, completely inflating his fragile confidence and altering his self-perception. Deeply moved by her apparent sincerity, Abel vowed right then to prove himself worthy of her high esteem. The following morning, the Academy hosted its highly anticipated annual sword fighting tournament before the entire student body. Mia took her place in the central VIP balcony, hoping to witness a peaceful display of school sportsmanship. Her peace vanished instantly when a burly upperclassman maliciously challenged Prince Abel to an official duel. The crowd roared in anticipation, knowing that Abel stood almost no chance against the seasoned opponent. Mia knew that if Abel was severely injured here, her carefully planned escape route would completely crumble. Acting entirely on self-preservation, she stood up and threw her own silken handkerchief directly into the arena ring. A sudden stunned silence descended upon the entire stadium as the cloth fluttered gently to the sand. In noble tradition, dropping a token meant the princess was choosing a champion to fight explicitly in her honor. Seeing the imperial princess's token, Abel felt a massive surge of adrenaline and profound responsibility course through his veins. The duel commenced with a fierce clash of steel that echoed sharply across the stone amphitheater walls. Abel parried a brutal downward strike, his boots sliding backward through the loose arena sand. From her seat, Mia covered her eyes, unable to watch the violent spectacle she had inadvertently escalated. Utilizing the precise technique Mia had praised, Abel executed a brilliant counterthrust that disarmed his opponent completely. The stadium erupted into deafening cheers for the spectacular underdog victory that no one had anticipated. Prince Cyan watched from afar, deeply impressed by Mia's apparent ability to identify and cultivate hidden talent. Mia let out a long sigh of relief, realizing her social standing had drastically transformed for the better overnight. Abel walked out of the ring holding the handkerchief high, cementing a powerful public alliance with the Tearmoon Empire. But as Mia returned to her private dorm room that evening, she found her desk drawers completely ransacked. The blood-stained diary was missing from its secret compartment, leaving behind only a scrap of dark parchment. Scrawled upon the note in jagged red letters was a cryptic message threatening to expose her future secrets to the entire world. Princess Mia stared down at the blood-red letters on the threatening note, her hands trembling violently as she thought of her previous execution. She quickly turned to her blood-stained diary, desperately flipping through the pages to see if the timeline of the neighboring Remno kingdom had altered. Fresh ink began to materialize across the paper, warning of an impending military rebellion that would soon destabilize the entire region. Realizing her peaceful future at the academy would vanish if the neighboring realm fell, Mia decided she had to intervene personally. She immediately packed her belongings and requested an official diplomatic escort under the guise of an imperial goodwill visit. Prince Abel insisted on joining her expedition, swearing his sword to protect her from any danger that awaited across the border. Together with a small retinue of trusted guards, they boarded a royal carriage and departed toward the rugged mountains of Remno. As they crossed the border, the scenery shifted from peaceful green valleys into desolate farmlands scarred by heavy overtaxation. Mia noted the angry whispers of the local peasants who gathered in the shadows, their eyes burning with a desire for violent revolt. The royal carriage arrived at the capital's grand fortress, where the atmosphere felt suffocatingly tense and filled with hidden malice. A corrupt minister named Count Lambert welcomed them with a false smile, hiding his secret allegiance to the underground revolutionary faction. Mia immediately sensed that this man was the mastermind behind the cryptic threat she had received back at the academy. During the welcoming banquet, she purposely feigned ignorance while secretly observing the movements of the palace guards. Abel kept his hand close to his hilt, whispering tactical observations about the unusually high number of armed soldiers present. Later that night, a sudden loud commotion echoed from the outer courtyards, signaling that the rebellion had begun early. Flames erupted across the city's skyline as rogue military units marched toward the palace gates with torches raised high. Abel burst into Mia's chambers with his sword drawn, determined to escort her safely through the chaotic palace corridors. Mia's internal thoughts screamed in pure terror, but her face remained remarkably calm, projecting the aura of a fearless strategist. She commanded the fleeing palace servants to halt, using her absolute royal authority to organize them into an emergency medical unit. The servants were deeply moved by her apparent selflessness, instantly mistaking her desire for self-preservation as legendary benevolence. Abel led the loyalist guards to block the main entrance, engaged in fierce sword combat against the encroaching rebel forces. Seizing the distraction, Count Lambert materialized from the shadows, holding a hidden dagger to eliminate Mia once and for all. Mia heard the footsteps at the very last second, spinning around to face her potential assassin with wide eyes. Instead of cowering, she used her heavy leather-bound diary as a makeshift shield, successfully blocking the downward strike of the blade. The impact tore the blood-stained pages of the future, symbolically shattering the dark fate that had bound her for so long. Abel arrived just in time, disarming Count Lambert with a powerful sweeping kick that sent the traitor crashing to the floor. Royal guards quickly swarmed the balcony, pinning the corrupt minister to the ground and securing the evidence of his treason. Mia stood over the captured traitor, her expression cold as she revealed his secret plans to the remaining rebel leaders who had entered. The rebel commanders realized they were merely pawns in a foreign conspiracy, dropping their weapons in absolute dismay. Seizing the moment, Mia promised them systemic food reforms and fair taxation, using her financial knowledge to address their true grievances. The entire room fell completely silent as both rebels and loyalists united in admiration for the incredible wisdom of the great sage Mia. With the conspiracy thoroughly unmasked, the flames of rebellion died down across the capital, replaced by a profound sense of peace. Weeks later, a massive celebration banquet was held to commemorate the official peace treaties signed between the two prosperous empires. Ludwig and Anna arrived from the home empire, presenting Mia with reports of full economic recovery and thriving new farmlands. Mia looked down at her hands, realizing that she no longer needed to carry the heavy burden of her past execution anymore. Abel walked up to her side, gently taking her hand and promising to remain by her side through every future endeavor. The terrible specter of the guillotine had completely vanished from her destiny, replaced by a radiant world of endless possibilities. Surrounded by her beloved friends, loyal subjects, and the bright promise of tomorrow, Mia finally allowed herself to laugh freely. She had completely rewritten the history of the entire empire, transforming her selfish desire to survive into an era of permanent peace. Princess Mia, once the doomed monarch of a falling realm, was now forever cemented as the immortal wisdom of the Tearmoon Empire.